This segment of In the Groove is proudly sponsored by Tea & Therapy. Pausing, even for a brief moment, to evaluate your mental state can be one of those enlightening moments. What we eat and drink can make these moments even more enjoyable. Shop Tea-In. Our tea kits are designed to excite your taste buds while helping you focus on a better mental lifestyle.
Hey folks, welcome back to In the Groove. I'm your host, Joseph Vincelli. Today we have Chef Blake Pt2, who is one of our teaching artists down here in Dallas-Fort Worth in North Texas area. And I love the passion that Chef Blake has towards food. A lot of chefs do, you know. It's a fun craft. I love it. I've loved it my whole life. But treating food more as medicine changes things. And you start to think, well, I can't make that anymore, and I can't make that anymore. You can. You just have to learn the substitutes and the alternatives. And so that has been my goal as a chef, as a home chef. Is it's changing out items, you know. Mm-hmm. One of the things that definitely is something that we should try to avoid is sugar and starches in general, sugars and starches. Now, you know, there are variations of those things, but for the most part, sugars are, you know, one of the main reasons why diabetes is such a problem. And it's not that we're trying to teach just the health. We're trying to teach the health for your brain, so that if our students, whether they are a veteran or a child, understand that if their gut is doing better, the blood flow will be better, more nutrients get to their brain, and they can think better. And so that's really what we're doing. And as artists, we want to think clear. We want to think as explorative in our minds as possible so that we can do so many different things.
Well, and one of the ways I look at this is this got lost somewhere along the way, but this is literally the energy that fuels you.
Yeah.
Everything you put in your body, that's where you get the ability to move, to think, to do whatever it is you're doing. And I look around, you know, with the standard American diet, and it's like people taking their portion, putting it full of diesel. And it's pretty amazing to me that so many people are making it to 65, 75, 80, putting diesel in their high-performance car every day.
Well, Bill Gates has a theory on that, or at least a scientific theory. That is that most people can live to the age of 80 before things start to really break down.
Till the wheels start to fall off.
The wheels start to fall off. Now, it doesn't mean everybody will, and it doesn't mean that everyone will live to 100 who took care of themselves.
Sure.
But, you know, that's the general rule. At the Artist Outreach, in our culinary program, we have a saying, Mother Nature, not McDonald's. Now, it doesn't mean that everything has to be natural that you eat, but the more you can eat like that, the more you're going to find yourself, your palate starts to go that way. Mm-hmm. And like you said, the 21-day rule. After 21 days, you know what, I'm starting to enjoy this. You know, I used to be a real sugar fanatic. I loved sugar, but there are alternatives to sugar. So I would like to at least talk about these a little bit. First of all, these are not sugar, but they're great snack foods. And they're just nuts and seeds. Nuts and seeds you should be using anytime that you're thinking about eating some kind of bar from the grocery store. They're natural, and if you can get them organic, even better. But they add so much fuel to you, and they have great fiber and a lot of other nutrients as well.
Healthy fats and loaded with vitamins and minerals, which few things are. One of in particular, sunflower seeds in general. Yeah. Pumpkin seeds, pepitos, sunflower seeds are just one of the ounce for ounce, gram for gram, one of the healthiest things you can take in.
Yeah, and you know, people only think of them at the baseball game, mm-hmm. You know. So, but, you know, throw them on salads and such. You'll start to find yourself craving them. I never mm-hmm. thought I would crave so many beans in my life, but I'm loving beans now.
Lentils. Lentils are a great one.
Absolutely.
Cook up in 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah,
on the stovetop, even quicker in a pressure cooker.
They don't take that much. He has pretzels here. You know, personally, I'm not a big fan of wheat. I try to at least, you know, cut it down where I can. Again, the sugars and starches. But this is a great one to have because it's thin. They're slims.
Well, and so much of what you're eating, is it healthy? Well, what does that even mean? It's all about what it's compared to, right? So pretzels may not be the healthiest thing, but compared to a potato chip or a corn chip, way better. And if you're putting them, say, in a ranch dip or something like that, are you going to be tasting the difference that much, or what you're really looking for is the texture, that crunchiness, and that saltiness?
The book that I wrote, The Art of Tone, it's about music. And yet there was a section that I talked about geometry, because I really was fascinated about how it is in music. And the irony is that food has geometry. Everything has geometry. But food has geometry. Yeah, exactly. Mathematics is the world. And one of the reasons why our palate enjoys creamy things is because they're round cells, like ovals or circles, whereas broccoli has triangular cells. That's why it has that flavor in your texture in your mouth, and you go, blah, blah, broccoli. But that's one of the reasons, and so that's why people put cheese on it. Now, what I'm saying is that you can change yourself mentally by just exploring ideas with natural foods. This is a great one. This is a great one for adding sugar to your
If you
table.
do like that sweetness, you can get natural sweetness from something like an apple, from something like some dried fruit. You know, it can satisfy that need without it being a candy bar. These cherries are delicious. They're also very, very healthy, and they are just as sweet as a candy bar, but they're a heck of a lot healthier for you.
Yeah. And then over time, you know, like I said, I really loved sugar myself. And so how was I going to get off sugar? Well, first of all, stop using refined sugar. So what I found was there are many, many alternatives. Here's one, you know, honey.
Something like honey.
Honey can be very, very good for you, especially if it's local honey, because it has all the minerals that are in the local soils and air.
That's some agave nectar.
Agave nectar is excellent. Stevia.
Stevia, which I normally bring with me. My go-to for replacement of full sugar, which I don't use too much anymore, but if there's certain baked goods where you really do need, you know, you can't make a sugar cookie without some type of, so if somebody wants that, erythritol is a very good, it's my personal go-to for the full-on sugar replacement.
Yeah.
Or monk fruit sweetener is another great one.
Or coconut sugar.
There are now
Many
more
types.
than a dozen of these different ones. Although one thing that is important to note, a lot of people think, especially with the older no-calorie sweeteners, the equals and the sweet and lows, that it's a good replacement for sugar because they might have blood sugar issues, be pre-diabetic, be diabetic. Well, those can actually spike your insulin levels the same way sugar does. They are no calorie and they are not treated like sugar in your body, but your body has sweetness receptors, so sometimes those can trick your pancreas into still secreting the insulin without it actually being sugar.
Because they're not natural.
Yes.
You know, these are natural products. That's what makes the difference. This is the only one that's processed. But all these other things are natural products, and that's what makes the difference. So as we're wrapping up, I just want to ask you, you know, when you go in and perform these classes for the students, what are the reactions?
A lot of times, people tend to think cooking is way harder than it is, actually. That it takes way more time, or that they don't know how to do it. And there's one thing I've kind of learned in life: it's if you tell yourself you can't do something, you're not going to be able to do it.
That's correct.
That's again why I'm big on doing something twice, because that first time you may have told yourself you can't, and then you try it, and maybe you don't do that good, but you see that you probably did better than you thought you could. So that's one of the big reactions, is just people seeing that, oh, I can do this. What I'm really big on, I grew up very poor, and you know, food was tough to come by sometimes. We didn't have a lot of money,
or if you did, I can almost guarantee at least half of it was processed.
Oh, everything we ate. So our weekly good meal when I was, I don't know, until I'm 4 or 5 or 6 years old, was hot dogs and chicken noodle soup. And my dad took pride in buying the Oscar Mayer hot dogs and the Campbell's chicken noodle soup, the name brands.
Well, they're name brands, yeah.
And that was a good meal. Right. And that's how I grew up, and that's how you end up at 365, 380 pounds, however big, because you just eat that stuff without an awareness. You habituate to it, you're used to it, this is what I like. And one thing I found as I started eating more natural stuff, less processed stuff, is that the real stuff is usually way more satisfying. You get a level of satisfaction, and the taste of it is usually so much better. I think a great example is something like the Little Debbie snack cakes, or potato chips, something like Doritos, where it's hitting the buttons, and they were designed in such a way by a food scientist, and a company spent $1 million to develop this thing to hit these certain mechanisms that you taste and texture. But they don't actually taste good. They are just triggering, they're flipping a switch, but there's no real enjoyment to them. I find that every now and then. I still love like the Nutter Butter bars, and maybe once a year I'll have One of those, and it's the same thing every time I eat McDonald's. I have it, and there's like a craving for it, and then I'm done, and I'm like, that was not.
Why did I
feel
do that?
way worse now.
Yeah, so let me just say a couple of things on that. First of all, we teach this to the students, to the youngest of students, but everything has a spiral effect, whether it's math or learning music or learning nutrition and cooking. It's not necessarily, they can learn the chopping techniques from the chef. We want them to also walk away with the same concept of, I can do this. I understand that nuts are better for me than having potato chips. And those little differences start to latch on. And as we see them weekly, they latch on to more and more of the spiral. And eventually, they become ideal humans, at least physically, at least as much as they can control. So, this is something we can control. And so that's one of the reasons why we believe in it so much, especially because we know that it helps the creativity, the creative mind. And so, we want our production or our body to flow as well as possible. So that's why we promote this so much. We're not healing the sick, and we're not healing people through some kind of medicinal means of food. We're just trying to get them to understand that food can be a source for more energy and fuel. And it's just learning about alternatives.
And I think so often it's just a matter of giving something a fair shake, trying it, and then looking back and comparing. Do I actually like this thing that I've just become accustomed to eating more? Do I like the bologna sandwich more than a nice turkey sandwich?
Yeah.
Probably not. Most people actually prefer that, but sometimes it's just this is what you're used to, or this is,
Sure.
what I have, and yeah.
Well, we appreciate you tuning in today, Chef Blake. I want to thank you for
My pleasure.
coming out today. It's always great to see you, and I look forward to the next time out in the classes. My name is Joseph Vincelli, and I am your host for the In the Groove podcast series. And we want to thank all of our sponsors for making this podcast series special and making it even happening. We appreciate you. Have a great day.